Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared, and we're about to play Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest. Let's take a look. I'll show you how. Feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. My goal is this video can not only teach you to play, but can be shown at the game table to help set up and teach the game at your next game session. As part of that goal, I've added chapter timestamps in the description to the different sections of the tutorial to easily recap relevant rules for you. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest is set in the world of Galecrest where sky pirates search for treasure, adventure, and glory. Become an admiral to command a large and diverse crew. Send a different crew member each day to a new island to collect loot and hopefully return. This edition of the game is a re-release from the original 2012 printing and includes new art, 40 characters per player, a new reputation system, deluxe loot tokens, and more. Before you go off on your air voyages, let's take a look first at how to set up the game. To start setting up the game, place the island board on the table on either the calm side or stormy side. Decide together which one you want to use. The calm side is for easier, friendlier abilities, while the stormy side is more complex and has more devious abilities. For extra looting variability in your game, use the rectangular loot tiles and place them on the board on random sides face up for a wilder ride on the high seas. Otherwise, they aren't used. If you see the ones with this icon, it's meant for the solo game and can be returned to the box. Place all the loot tokens in the cloth bag. The doubloon cardboard tokens can sit in supply piles on the table. Each player chooses a color to represent them from the 6 available. Take the 40 character cards with the color in the upper left of the cards, a score dial, a reputation token, and a graveyard tile. Don't shuffle the character cards. Instead, try to keep them in sequential order. Set all the score dials to 0. Mix all 6 reputation markers together and place them randomly on the reputation track from left to right. Note that you use all 6 regardless of your number of players. In a 2-player game, cover the second and third spaces of the island with the midshipman tile. Randomly place the active player's reputation tokens on the third and fourth spaces on the reputation track. Fill in the remaining spaces of the track with the unused tokens. The next part of setup happens at the start of each voyage, of which there are 3. First, randomly draw loot tokens from the bag to put on the designated loot spaces on the board. Each space represents a day of the voyage, and each of the 3 voyages has a different number of days. Each day in the voyage has a number of loot tokens equal to the number of players. However, in a 2-player game, place 3 loot tokens out on each day. Now choose a player to shuffle their character deck and draw 6 random cards. Reveal them to everyone, who then also collect these 6 from their own decks. Keep these in your hand for the current voyage. For each voyage, it's easiest to keep the same player as the one shuffling. Everyone else can keep theirs in numerical order. Lastly, each player collects a number of doubloons shown in the number below their reputation token on the track. Your doubloons and score are always open information. The game plays through 3 voyages, or rounds. The voyages get progressively longer. The first voyage is 4 days, second is 5, and last voyage is 6 days. Each player begins each voyage with the same set of 6 character cards as everyone else. Players will choose a character card from their hand simultaneously to play face down and reveal after everyone is chosen. The character cards get arranged on the island board from left to right in ascending order based on the rank shown in the upper left corner. Based on this order, players take their turns to activate daytime abilities on the character, then dusk abilities and loot items in descending order. Characters return to the controlling player's ship, and lastly, the night abilities on characters in ships activate. At the end of a voyage, any anchor abilities on their characters activate, and you'll score their loot tokens and doubloons. The characters then get discarded along with loot tokens and doubloons. only keep your characters in your hand you didn't play this voyage. At the end of the third voyage, reveal scores to see who history will remember as the wealthiest pirate. The Reputation track is a new addition to Libertalia and Winds of Galecrest. It's used primarily as a tiebreaker for when multiple players play the same character. It can be changed with loot tokens and characters. The further right your token is on the track, the higher your reputation. Whenever gaining reputation, move it that many spaces to the right, sliding other tokens to the left. When losing reputation, move it to the left and slide other tokens to the right behind it. The number shown in the doubloon icon below the tokens is the number of doubloons gained for that player at the start of a new voyage. As described in the setup, if you're playing a 2-player game, you'll cover spaces 2 and 3 with the midshipman tile. Each day of the voyages will have 3 loot tokens instead of 2. Players put out their character cards on the island based on the midshipman's rank. If you're the only person to play a character card 20 or less, put it on the space directly left of the midshipman. At dusk, the opponent of that player removes a loot token from the current day right before that player gains a loot token. The removed token returns to the bag. At the start of a voyage, go through the start of voyage setup steps I described earlier. Draw loot tokens from the bag to their spaces on the board equal to the number of players. The designated player shuffles their character deck and draws 6 new cards to show to everyone. Each player retrieves those from their deck and adds it to their existing hand. Then, players gain doubloons equal to the amount shown below their reputation marker. Players will choose a character card from their hand simultaneously to play face down and reveal after everyone is chosen. The character cards get arranged on the island from left to right in ascending order based on the rank shown in the upper left corner. When there's a tie for rank for playing the same character, break the ties by using the reputations. The player with the higher reputation places their character further right. After characters are placed out in ranking order, you'll proceed through the 3 phases of the day: daytime, dusk, and night. The first phase is resolved by each player before moving to the next phase. Starting with the leftmost character with the lowest rank and going to the right, each player activates their character's daytime ability if they have one. Next comes the dusk phase, where you start with the rightmost character on the island and proceed to the left. On their turn in dusk, follow these steps. Gain a loot token from the current day unless otherwise stated or there's not one available. If your character or newly gained loot have dusk abilities, activate them now. Then, if your character card is still on the island, place it face up in front of you. After completing everyone's dusk phases, remove any remaining loot tokens from the current day back to the bag. During the night phase, players simultaneously activate all night abilities on characters in their ship. These can be done in the order of your choice. After completing the night phase, continue to the start of the next day with players simultaneously selecting a new character from their hand to play face down. Once all of the loot tokens have been resolved off the board to complete each day of the current voyage, the voyage ends. Remember that the first voyage lasts 4 days, the second one 5 days, and the third one 6 days. At the end of each voyage, do the following steps. Activate all anchor abilities on loot tokens and characters in your ship in any order. Next, increase your score dial by the number of doubloons you've collected throughout the voyage. Discard the tokens back to the supply. The score dial is open information. You can score more than 99. If you do, leave your dial at 99 and collect doubloons to add additional wealth. Next, unless noted, return all loot tokens to the bag and all character cards in your ship face down to your graveyard. Players will have leftover character cards in their hands. In the next voyage, you'll add 6 more matching cards to add to the ones still in your hands. In this way, you'll begin the next voyage with some characters in your hand that other players have in their graveyards. There shouldn't be any loot left on the board, so if there are, return them to the bag before the next voyage. Follow the setup steps again for voyage 2 and 3 as needed and proceed again. After the third voyage, everyone reveals their score dial to see who is the richest pirate. In a tie, whoever has the highest reputation wins. Depending on which side of the board you're using, and if using the randomized tile abilities of the loot for the Uncharted mode, each loot token will have a different effect. Look closely at which icons are shown on the loot descriptions. The Dusk ability tokens trigger when the token is gained from the board. Any of these gained on future Dusk phases or from being passed from player to player do not trigger those abilities again. The loot with an anchor icon shown means you get to activate those abilities at the end of the night phase in any order. If you trigger an ability that requires a loot token be discarded, the token returns to the bag. Otherwise, it stays in your supply. Some other loot tokens have night abilities that trigger then. Lastly, unless otherwise stated, loot tokens are put back in the bag at the end of each voyage. I'll cover briefly what they are on the calm and stormy sides of the board. The Saber loot on the calm side lets you discard another player's character from the island. Anytime a character is discarded, put it face down on your graveyard tile. On the stormy side, the loot lets you discard a character of your choice adjacent to you. Adjacency is players seated to your left or right at the table. The map loot on the calm side gives you 7 doubloons for each set of 2 maps. For each set of 3 maps, gain 12 doubloons. On the stormy side, the map loot gives you 8 doubloons only if you have more map tokens than other players. If you do, also discard all your map tokens. The chest loot gives you 5 doubloons on the calm side. On the stormy side, gain 4 plus 1 for each of your map tokens. The calm side of the relic loot loses you 3 doubloons. The stormy side of the relic loot loses you 1 doubloon. The amulet's calm side gives you 3 doubloons. On the stormy side, gain 1 doubloon for each reputation token right of yours on the track. The calm ability of the barrel loot is improve your reputation by 1 when taking it. At the end of the voyage, gain 1 doubloon. The stormy ability lets you discard the token when you gain it to gain 2 reputation. If kept until the end of the voyage, you would get 2 doubloons instead. Lastly, the hook loot ability on the calm side of the board lets you keep a character in your ship for the next voyage, or gain 2 doubloons. On the stormy side, you must discard the character that gained this token with no other benefits to it. The back of the rulebook has a quick overview of the icons and the voyage steps. Libertalia Winds of Galecrest comes with an Automa rulebook that provides a way to add 2 artificial players to the game. Use these instructions to play the game completely solo. They are AI characters known as Automa and Pilferer. The Automa plays like a player with some modified rules. The Pilferer represents part of a player, as really he's not a player or owner of a character, but his currently played character is considered a character on the island. The only things the Pilferer does is add characters to the island each turn and remove a loot token during dusk. He has no reputation, and his characters are always placed on the left if there's a tie. Grab the 39 solo cards and the player aid card to sit in front of you. The purple at the top indicates it's being used as the Automa. The orange at the top means it's being used as the Pilferer. Start with setting up the game like a 2-player game would, with Automa as the second player. Use purple for his color. However, don't place out the midshipman tile. Replace the hook, saber, amulet, and barrel loot tiles with the matching Automa loot tile replacements. Put the loot tiles on the board as shown here for calm mode. Shuffle the solo cards into a stack, showing the back sides up with the orientation so you can read the numbers. The Automa doesn't need a character deck. Put your reputation and Automa's reputation marker randomly on the 3rd and 4th spaces, just as if for a 2-player game. To set up a voyage, reveal the topmost 6 cards from the solo deck to determine the 6 character cards to use. Look at the purple flag at the top left. Add the 6 cards to the Automa hand, with her hand organized as a face-up row, sorted in increasing rank. Give the Automa the doubloons based on her reputation. First, you pick your card and put it on the island board. Draw for the Pilferer next by taking the top card off the solo deck and rotating it so the orange flag is at the top left. Next, divide the current day's loot into 3 categories: good, average, and bad. The chest, hook, and map are good. The saber, amulet, and barrel are average, and the relic is bad. Look at the top of the solo deck to find what the automa draws. Go through the loot icons rows shown from top to bottom until you find the first row that matches the loot tokens of the current day. The first row is if the 3 loot tokens are in the same category. The second row is if there are 2 bad tokens with something else. The third row is 1 bad loot with 1 good loot and anything else. The fourth row is any combination with at least 1 good token. The last one matches any combination with at least 1 bad token. This last one should capture all remaining combinations, so bad, average, and average. The right column on this table shows which card from her hand she plays onto the board. For example, this icon with the line and arrow forward to a 3 means start at the left and count right of her 6 cards. She'll play the 3rd card from the left. This means count from the right, so with a 1 means to take the rightmost card in her hand. This icon pointing to a 2 means to take the 2nd card from the left that shows the cannon icon under its rank number. Skip all cards without a cannon. When the automa has fewer cards than the number shown, count as far as possible and stop at the end of the card row. If looking for a cannon icon card and there are none left, play the rightmost card. All the cards are played on the island board like normal. Now you'll resolve the daytime phase. For the automa card, if she has a daytime ability that can't be activated or doesn't lead to a change in the game state, then her character's rank is increased to the number indicated after no effect on the card. This rank change takes place after the daytime phase. The Pilferer doesn't activate any ability. During dusk, resolve it as normal. The automa and Pilferer gain loot tokens in order based on their card positions like normal. The automa gains the loot token among those available that's leftmost on this priority list and activates its ability, if any. Anytime she draws a loot token, she chooses with this priority list left to right from what's available. When it's the Pilferer's turn to take a loot token, also use that priority list. Put that token in the bag without activating its ability. Put the Pilferer's used card in the solo deck discard pile. In the night phase, the automa activates her night abilities in order of increasing rank unless otherwise noted. Pilferer doesn't do anything. Proceed to the next day. At the end of a voyage, the automa activates the abilities of collected loot tokens like normal. If the stormy versions of maps and chests are in play, she does the chests first. The Pilferer does nothing. Do your best to score more points than the automa to win. You can change the difficulty of the game by setting up different amounts of starting doubloon wealth. There's a nice table about this found in the rulebook. The rulebook also has a clarification on 1 or 2 cards you can check if you come across any confusion. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. The Meeple Mentor channel is now part of the board game community, the Gateway Network, made up of great upcoming board game content creators. The network includes Instagrammers, podcasters, YouTubers, artists, and more. Head to thegatewaynetwork.com to support new and independent board gamers. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.